Welcome back to this journey into the Christian spiritual life. In our last session, we explored a simple but profound truth that every human heart carries within it a desire for God, a restlessness that cannot be satisfied by anything less than God Himself. So today we'll take the next step. If your soul longs for God, where is He? How do you find Him? And perhaps more importantly, what if He's already closer than you think? One of the great misunderstandings in the spiritual life is the idea that God is far away. We imagine God in heaven and ourselves here below, separated by an enormous distance. We speak of coming into God's presence as if He were absent until we summoned Him. But Scripture tells us otherwise. In the Acts of the Apostles, St. Paul preaches to the people of Athens in these words, "In Him we live and move and have our being." Think about that. You exist within the presence of God. You move within Him. Every moment of your life, every breath, every heartbeat happens in His presence. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are living in the mystery of God's nearness. This is not poetry. It is the foundation of the spiritual life. The problem is not that God is distant. The problem is that we are inattentive. We are distracted. We are too preoccupied to notice the one who is already within us. But God does not hide Himself out of cruelty or indifference. He waits patiently, quietly, constantly for us to turn towards Him. The spiritual life is not a quest to find a hidden God. It is a journey of awakening to the God who is already near. Consider the story of Elijah the prophet. When Elijah stood on the mountain waiting for God, he looked for Him in the wind, in the earthquake, in the fire, these dramatic signs of power. But God was not there. Instead, He came in a gentle whisper, a still small voice. And so the lesson is simple. God often speaks in quietness. His presence is found not in noise or spectacle, but in silence. And this is where the practice of spiritual awareness begins. Brother Lawrence, a humble lay brother working in the kitchen of a 17th century monastery, discovered this secret. He learned to live every moment in quiet awareness of God. Whether he was cooking, cleaning, or walking through the courtyard, he practiced what he called the presence of God. He did not seek extraordinary experiences. He did not try to escape his ordinary tasks. Instead, he turned those very tasks into prayer, simply by remembering that God was with him. He spoke to God as a friend throughout the day, not with formal prayers, but with simple awareness. Brother Lawrence wrote, "We should establish within ourselves a sense of God's presence by continually conversing with Him, simply and humbly." What Brother Lawrence discovered is not unique to him. It is the invitation God gives to each one of us. You do not need a monastery kitchen to practice the presence of God. You need only a willing heart. Think about your own daily life. Most of us live much of the day on autopilot. We move from task to task, thought to thought, without ever pausing to notice God's presence. But God is there, in the silence of your morning, in the quiet moments between conversations, in the beauty of creation, in the struggles and joys of ordinary life. He is present as you drive to work, as you sit at your desk, as you make dinner, as you speak to a friend. And so to begin living a more attentive spiritual life, you must reclaim these ordinary moments. How? By learning to pause. Here's something very simple yet powerful. At various moments throughout your day, stop, be still, even for 5 seconds, and say quietly within yourself, "God, you are here. Help me to notice you." That's it. You do not need long, elaborate prayers. You need the habit of attention. St. Ignatius of Loyola, the great spiritual master, understood this very well. He taught what he called recollection, gathering your distracted thoughts and bringing them gently back to God's presence. For Ignatius, the world was not a place to escape from. It was the very place where God meets you. He called it finding God in all things. But finding God in all things requires that you first look for him. A practical way to grow in this awareness is through what Ignatius called the daily examen, which we will explore more fully in a future session. But at its heart, the examen is a simple daily practice of looking back over your day and noticing where God was present, where you were aware, where you were distracted, and thanking God for both. And why does that matter? Because the more you practice noticing God's presence in the small moments, the more you will discover that your entire life can become prayer. Not just when you're in church, but in every moment. And here's the heart of the matter. The sacraments themselves teach us this truth. Think of the Eucharist. God comes to us not through dazzling visions or overwhelming power, but under the appearance of simple bread and wine. Ordinary, everyday elements become the body and blood of Christ. Why? Because God delights to meet us in the ordinary, in the material world, in the very life we live. The Church's sacramental life is not separate from this spiritual awareness. It is its deepest expression. In every Eucharist, God meets you. In every sacrament, his grace reaches into your ordinary life. But that grace is not limited to the sacraments. God's presence fills all creation, and your task is to notice. C.S. Lewis once reflected that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, and shouts in our pain. But perhaps more often than not, God simply waits, silently, patiently, until we remember him. And so let me invite you to a practice for this week. Each day, choose 3 small moments to pause, perhaps as you wake in the morning, before a meal, and as you end your day. In those moments, be still and simply say, Lord, you are here. Help me to be present to you. Let that simple prayer open your heart to the reality that God is near. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. You live every moment in the presence of the God who created you and loves you. This practice of awareness may feel difficult at first. You will forget. Your mind will wander. But that's all right. Each time you remember, each time you turn your attention back to God is a small victory, a quiet step deeper into the life of grace. And so the spiritual life is not about perfection. It is about presence, about remembering, about returning again and again to the God who is already waiting for you. And so the next session we'll explore what it means to pray, not as a duty or obligation, but as a relationship, as friendship with God. But for now, remember, God is closer than you think. He walks with you now. He waits for you to turn, and he is patient. Be still, notice, and know that he is God.